Okay, today we are doing a 200 amp service with a main breaker disconnect, and it all starts with the drilling. I have a 2¼ inch bit right now, just drilling the holes for where my service wire is going to go. And I know that a lot of these videos are supposed to be shorter for your entertainment, but there's a lot of real work that goes into what we do. And like this wire, it's heavy as shit. Look at me tote that thing upstairs like a champ. I'm rolling that thing out. Like, it's heavy. Like, it's no joke. Like, I'm not getting paid a lot to do this, but I want to show you exactly what we do day in, day out. It's not all sunshine and roses. So here I am shoving it through a top plate at first. I figured getting it to the panel and then running the rest of the wire the other way would be easy. So now I drilled some 2-inch holes through these TGIs, and I'm just trying to fish it through. I opted to notch out the panel because I thought it would be easier. I'm going to put this 18-inch nail guard above the panel anyways later on, and instead of going through a 2-inch hole, I thought it would be a little bit smoother. So I'm putting it in the panel right now, and it looks like a lot of wire in the panel, and that's because the ground wire has to go a lot lower. Where I put the ground bar kit is way on the bottom left, and then I'll trim the hots and the neutral a little shorter. So now I'm upstairs again and just trying to fish it to the other side of the house. Like, this is a long wire. I think this one measured out to be about 92 feet. It's a 2-story monster bitch ass house, and it just takes time. Look at me struggle right there. That's a big strong man. So it is definitely not easy work. I did have help with me, but I wanted to make this video and show that you can do it by yourself. You know, just gotta have a little tenacity. So remember them holes I drilled. We got to get this service wire down before we can start working on the meter. And I could have just cut all this out and started where the wire was hanging out. I could have just started where the wire was just hanging outside of the house, but you'd miss all this hard work that you have to do to get that wire there sometimes. And I have tried to make this video a few times, but I'm always missing like a piece, like a stupid piece or something. But I think the whole project took me like an hour and 15 minutes to do, and I cut this video down to 35 minutes, so I'm trying to make it as entertaining as possible. And right here, when I drilled the downstairs too, I was able to get it through this bottom plate and through the top plate downstairs. Like, I was able to see it and fish it through. So now I'm just putting some service staples in. And you have to have one within 12 inches of the top plate and every 4 feet down, and one within 12 inches of the bottom plate. Same thing right here where it's going out. Oh no, wait, this is second story still. So 12 inches from top plate, 4 foot down, and 12 inches from the bottom plate. So this is downstairs. This is where I'm going to put it out. It's right there at my stomach level, kind of. And I'm cutting this wire. It's aluminum 4.0, and it's rated for 200 amp service. So the trick with building a meter for me is laying out everything first, just to make sure, because there's a whole bunch of different meters, and that's why they give you different options for different 2-inch, for different knockouts on each side. It's just depending on whatever electrical company that you're using or wherever you're getting your meters from. So these are just the screws for the disconnect I'm just putting them in so I don't lose them. Gonna have a lot of parts and a lot of pieces everywhere, and I don't want to lose these ones.
It's over there. Why?
So after a while of doing this, you'll be able to start to see where 2 inches are, and that's what I'm using for most of this. Right there, what I'm taking out is the space for the 2-inch Romex connector. And I just take out the middle piece, and you can just start rocking it side by side until it breaks loose for the size that you need. It's kind of a bitch sometimes. Just depends on what company you're using. Sometimes whenever they come from the factory, the knockouts aren't like fully cut out, and it can be really tough. And it just takes practice. It can be really tough at first, just to get it done, but with a little practice, it gets easier. Alright, same thing with here. The power company always gets the most direct pathway to their lugs. Like, you don't want to take out the other. No, I'm taking out this one because it's right below where their lugs are, where they're going to be plugging up for power. And don't forget your 1/2 inch. That's going to be for your ground rod, for your 4/7 to your ground rod. And this will be to the disconnect. And I see a lot of people do this differently, but I found that just taking out the middle piece and finding where you need to be and rocking out that piece just like that, just popping it out, it's a lot easier for me to do it this way. And for most of electrical, it's all pretty much the same. You just want to set yourself up for success. You just want to make sure that you're doing the most prep work possible to make things easier for when you go to do the job. And it's the same for anything you're doing. So right now I'm just putting in a 2-inch TA with a 2-inch lock nut and a bushing. I don't understand why we put bushings on, but that's what the company wants. It just doesn't make sense. If it was metal, then I wouldn't complain about it. But so same thing on this side, 2-inch TA, 2-inch lock nut, and putting a bushing in. I don't think you need it, but it's what our company wants. Same thing for the same thing for the pipe going down. And then here's my 1/2 inch TA. That's going to be for the 4/7 wire connected to the ground rod and to the 4/7 that's attached to the shit on the house. I don't even know. Alright, for this, I know it might cause a little controversy, but this is my 2-inch Romex connector for where my service is coming out. I just totally get rid of that one piece to clamp down on my 4.0 wire coming outside. But I've never heard anything back from it. Like, once I put fire foam on the other side, they don't even notice. So, fuck them. Alright, this 1/2 inch pipe, I'm just cutting off a piece. There's no measurement necessary, just a little piece. And then bump that into the 1/2 inch TA. And all we're doing is just prepping this before we get outside. They got a little spot right here just specifically for this wire. And at this point in the meter, the neutrals and the grounds are together. The one thing you won't see in this video is where I'm actually bonding the neutrals and the grounds. I did that before this video even started, and while I was in the box. This right here, what I'm putting on is a ground bar kit, and it's mainly used for your TV and phone company. So we're going to need a little 2-inch pipe that's going to connect in between the two TAs from the disconnect and the meter. And I'm just using my fingers to ream out the chunks from the cut. Alright, these are my meter blocks, my vinyl blocking, and for them to, in order to look like they go together, you just gotta cut the tabs off of one side on each. So this is what I'm saying about laying everything out. Just so you know that you cut out the right side of the hole. I don't have any extra material, so I gotta make it work the first time. Alright, so what I'm doing right here is this is where my service wires are gonna come through to the disconnect. So I'm just sawzalling as low as I can, because if you don't do it as low as I'm doing right here, I just get used to seeing it. I don't do measures and I don't draw out. I'm not tracing out any holes. I've just seen this kind of work so much that I know where I'm going. So this is as far low as I can on this vinyl blocking, and that's where my disconnect's gonna go. So we're gonna take these motherfuckers outside. My girlfriend don't like it when I cuss on these videos. Alright, so I'm just folding this thing up a little bit. Slide my vinyl block up. And if you're new to this, I would suggest that you get a level, just so you know that you're not crooked. And I used to use staples for this all the time, but apparently the staples that I put up might cause a little bit of rust, so I started using these screws. So we're going to need 2 of these. So we got one side for the disconnect and then one side for the meter. Okay, so we're going to start with the disconnect. We're going to slide this over the wire.
What? Dirty looks and shit.
Yeah, you get dirty looks. Don't be laughing on my video, bitch. Alright, so we're going to pop this up there. And this is a lot easier to do with a partner. But like I said, I've done this by myself so many times. And you got to learn how to do it by yourself. I mean, it's nice to have a partner, but you're not always going to be in that situation. I don't know what it is. It's about putting these 3-inch hex heads in this. It just doesn't want to go through the vinyl blocking easily. So that's all we're doing. So now I'm just checking to make sure it's straight. Alright, and the meter base is all dependent on which side of the house the power company is going to plow into from the junction box that they have. Sometimes they plow across the driveway. Sometimes it's right in front of that little green box. But we've come across a lot of situations where the power company wants it on the opposite side of where, what is it called? The sewage is going to be. They don't want it on the same side as the sewage, so if it is on the same side of the sewage, they will plow the service in across the driveway, but it's kind of rare. A lot of people are way ahead of planning, and they get it right the first time. So usually you can plan on the meter being on the side where the little green box is beside your driveway. So this is the hardest part of putting up the meter if you're doing it by yourself. It's just an awkward moment to hold that meter up and to drill it in, because once again, getting that 5/16 head screw through the vinyl blocking into the OSB can kind of keep messing with you. It's not that easy. So now I'm going to put the pipe down, and the first one I'm going to do here is the 1/2-inch pipe for the ground rod. After I get this screw in, the laptop's kind of getting hot. So with the 4/7 ground, I'm just trying to get it down to the dirt. And now we got some 2-inch pipe. And for this neighborhood, all I have to do is get it down to the dirt. And for a lot of other neighborhoods, I have to dig down 24 inches. And put a 90 on it, and that 90 has to be at least at 2 foot. But again, this just has to do with what the power company wants. So after doing this for a while, you start to learn what the power company wants, and you just got to know what's going on. I'm just reaming out the end with my fingers and just trying to shove it up there, and it's not going that well. So I end up just flipping it around and using the prefab cut. Alright, and now I'm going to strap the 1/2-inch pipe. And this won't matter later on because the siding guys are going to come in and they're going to take these straps off. But it does matter for that 2-inch pipe, because the electrical company is going to come in and plow it before the siding goes up. And they need that strap just to make sure that the pipe is going to be perpendicular and straight. It's not going to look all crooked. So I'm just putting that stripe in just so it looks nice and straight for whenever they run their wires up. And that ground bar kit, I'm just putting the lid on it. A lot of times they lose that shit though, and we ended up having to pay for a whole bunch of them. So here we are back to the 4/0 wire. So when I'm cutting this 4/0 wire at this time, I'm concentrating on my ground wire. I was cutting it long enough for my ground wire because it's the hardest to get up in. It has to have the nicest cut, and my Sawzall will give it the nicest cut. I could cut it with my side cutters, but it's gonna kind of span out the wire, and it's gonna make it hard to get up in there. And the ground part of this wire, the hole that they give you for it is kind of like the perfect size, and it's really stupid. They need to make it a little bigger. And that's for all of these type of disconnects. Like, I don't understand why they don't make the hole big enough for the wire we're putting in it. It's always a struggle. It don't make no sense to me. So it's aluminum wire. I'm putting no locks in it, and that just, in case there's a surge of any kind, aluminum wire will melt, and they don't. And I guess the no locks is supposed to stop it from melting in there or whatever. So now I'm just taking out the lugs for the neutrals and the hots. So I'm just taking out all 3 of these lugs, and then I'm going to slide all of the wires up there at one time, and then no locks them at one time, and then put all the things in. See, I would prefer them wires to go up and around into the top. And this basically just works the same as a switch. This is a single pole switch for 2 hots and a neutral. But we're just going to go into the bottom here because that's what our company prefers. There is no line or load side, and I would argue that with anybody. I argue it at work every time, but they're not going to be happy until I put them into the bottom. So I'm just going to do what they want. And right now, I'm taking off about 3/4 of an inch of this. I don't want to take off too much. I don't want too much wire exposed, so I'm just going to move these wires around. And I'm going into the bottom. The middle one is the ground and the neutral, and then the outsides are the hots. This is the only place in the house where the grounds and the neutrals are bonded. I didn't show you that part, but if you made it this far in the video, then I'm pretty sure you figured it out by now. Especially with like arc faults and GFI breakers, the new ones. It really matters. So, but this is the only place where the grounds and the neutrals are together. On the panel side, they're separate. And this part can be a little bit of a struggle. It's just tight area, you know, and the wire is kind of tough. But with a little bit of work, you can get it in there. So technically this is the load side, and then the next thing we're going to be working on the line. So I got a little extra piece here. I ordered a little bit extra wire so I would have enough for this part. And we're just discarding the ground wire. We don't need it anymore. All we need is that neutral. So the way I did this, I left a little gap behind the wires. I just kind of folded them in a way to where like I could go behind with this 2-inch pipe. And the middle one in this situation is usually the neutral. It's attached to that ground wire you see. And there's already no locks in this meter. This company, I don't know, I think it's an meter. But the meters that we use already put a little bit of no locks in there, so there's no need to put any on this side. And see, I got my finger right behind that screw. I'm trying to take it all the way out, but not to where the piece comes out. Alright, so we're using the black. Red or black, don't matter. Taking off about 3/4 of it. And typically this is how I do it every time. I do the neutral first, and then I do the hard bend second, and then the next one is just nice and smooth, all right behind those wires I just put in on the load side. Just a little struggle. And never mind my t-shirt. It's basically a shop towel or something. It's a little tight, but you just gotta work it in there.
I keep freaking almost falling.
Nice and tight, like a tiger. Red and black, same thing, 3/4. And this is the easy one, except it's hard to push through because it's getting a little tighter now with all those wires in a 2-inch pipe. No, I don't need no locks on the meter side because it's already got a little bit. So here I am working with the neutral, just cutting off what I need. And that's going to go in middle, just like it did on the bottom side. And it's really obvious once you get your hands on it and you're looking inside, it's pretty obvious what's going on. Different disconnects call for different bonding, so he's got to make sure that, as my boss would say, your due diligence and making sure things are correct. Kevin. Alright, this side doesn't have any no locks on it, so with all aluminum wire, you have to make sure you put a little bit on. It's code. And the lugs, I start with my fingers. You have to start them with your fingers, because a lot of people, they go in this and they buy the bit for this. Like, I don't even know what size the bit is. Let's say it's a 1/2 inch. And you put it on your bit and you start it off. If you strip those lugs out, you might have to replace way more than you think. And then you have to worry about exactly what the torque is in putting one of those new breakers in. Like, it's a pain in the dick. You got to start it with your hands, and then you can finish it off with your bit. But I lost my bit. I don't know where it is. I wish I did, but it's whatever. Work it, work it, work it, work it. We laugh at that. I'm not talking.
You're not?
Well, no, there's. Look for the bars here. Anyways, same shit.
Do we have to put a ground
Black,
on it?
red, don't matter. It's residential. And why did they make some grounds on cars black? That don't make no sense. Alright, I'm taking these screws out for the cover. I put them in there so I wouldn't lose them. Works in handy. Got the meter cover, got the disconnect cover. Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy. But wait, we got more. My favorite part is coming up. I was shocked at how easy this house was to put a ground rod down. Like, look at this shit. I swear, like, you never get this lucky.
Oh, that looks like it's going down, didn't it?
That was the easiest I've ever seen it.
I almost got this thing all the way down by my hands.
Pure Hulk vibes.
Damn right. I'm strong. You know what? Maybe because I'm just not an average human. You know, just like I'm like Ricky Bobby and shit. I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence. Uh. Alright, the ground rod has to go down. Some neighborhoods want it to be down flush with the ground, and you just dig around a little bit so you can see the acorns. But this neighborhood, it doesn't really matter, just have it about 6 inches above. And that's the ground to the house, the wiring underneath the concrete. And the ground for the meter.
Okay.